Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, I rise in support of the Public Debt Management Bill. I note, Mr. Deputy President, that this bill is an imperative of the policy-based loan which was taken by the government of St. Lucia in 2020 from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. This was a requirement of the loan that had to be fulfilled by the government of St. Lucia. And it's a shame, Mr. Deputy President, that 3 years later we are here debating this bill and confusing it with debt for disaster and all sorts of things. This is debt for debt management. That is the title of the bill, Public Debt Management. And so one gets the impression that debt is taken only for disaster. And Mr. President, before I proceed to explain what I believe is the essence of the bill, I want to refer to the very same statistics that have been presented on St. Lucia's public debt from 2012 and to correctly analyze these figures so that the people of St. Lucia can understand what we are facing. Because when I went to school, I learned how to analyze statistics, and I was never taught how to just jump statistics and fly figures out in the air. So let's start with 2012. Today's Teachers Appreciation Day. And we have to appreciate what we learned from our teachers and don't come here and say something completely different, thereby confusing the people of St. Lucia. We do not have the 43%ers only as we make them out to believe. We have educated people who are listening to us, and there are some who are learning from us, and therefore we must present facts and figures correctly. So let us go from 2012. From the Economic and Social Review of 2022 at page 115. In 2012, the very same figures that were presented suggest that the official public debt to GDP stood at 61.1%. In 2013, it climbed slightly to 62.2%. In 2014, it went down slightly to 60.7%. Listen carefully, 2015, 61.5%. 2016, 60.9%. In 2017, 58.8%. In 2019, 59.4%. 2018, 59.4%. 2019, 60.3%. Listen, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, in 2020, it went to 98.1%.
Why?
You didn't say why. You jumped. So do not allow me to say why.
Why?
You had,
hello, members,
Mr. Deputy President.
Members, just now, Madam Senator, please address the chair if you have to say anything. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy President, I stood on a point of order to allow the member opposite to explain the statistics. He refused. He rather jump from 2012 to 2022. Now, you want to ask me why? I don't know why. Ask yourself why. In 2021, from 98.1%, it went down to 85.9%, and in 2022, went down to 69.8%. It is significant to show the various people who manage the debt throughout that term, from 2012 to 2022. Over the 10 years, while there is continuity in government, a government that is not prudent could have kept the debt at that high level. But let's move on, Madam, Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, the policy of this bill was approved in Cabinet in October of 2020. We know the policy precedes the drafting of the bill. It was approved in 2020. Remember what happened in July 2021. So there was time from October 2020 until July 2021 for this bill to come to Parliament. Why didn't it come? An imperative of a loan that was taken, but it did not come. I cannot believe that today the opposition would come here and do not say that they're coming to support this bill as an imperative of a loan that was taken by the former administration. Mr. Deputy President, you recalled when this rapid credit facility was tapped into, the then leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister said, and we heard the IMF had it in their reports, that that facility was created to allow for COVID relief. But he said, the president of the IMF said, build roads. You remember that? The people of St. Lucia did not directly benefit from the facility that was taken from the IMF.
Mr. President, I stand on a point of order. That is,
Senator Pede, what's your point of order?
The member is again misleading the House by suggesting that the people of St. Lucia did not benefit from the loan of the IMF. Mr. President, I can tell you, and you were very well, as the chairman of the command center back then, what I can tell you is that while there were 11,000 registered employees of the NIC who were able to tap those funds, there were another 6,000 unregistered people, taxi drivers, hairdressers, and the like, of small business people who did not have the ability
Mr. President, is he offering clarification? I did not ask for clarification.
What we did,
Senator Jean?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What we did,
but
Mr.
just
President.
now, Senator Fede.
Yeah.
She is correct, but you have not said exactly what your point of order is. You're going into a great explanation.
I said she was misleading the House by saying they're not benefiting from the money.
Yes, but you haven't said why that is wrong. You've gone into a very long. Just now, Senator.
Yeah.
You've gone into a very long explanation without getting to the point of what exactly is wrong about what she said. So if you could just summarize what you were saying.
No problem. So where she's wrong is that there were an additional 6,000 people who benefited from the monies we borrowed from the World Bank, right? For income support. That's the point.
Thank you. Can you move on with your presentation, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, the Prime Minister at the time tapped a facility for the people of St. Lucia. The people of St. Lucia will tell you whether they benefited or not. Well, I agree. The people of St. Lucia told you whether they got it or not. That was on July 26, 2021. Mr. President, when I look at this bill called the Public Debt Management Act, I see a bold and courageous government who would bring this bill to Parliament. And let me tell you why. The first thing is that there are reporting requirements to Parliament. It means that the Minister of Finance now has to come to Parliament and bring that report on the debt of this country. So that when loan agreements are signed, but they never came into this house, no motions came into this house, and all the DFCs that have been created, the design, finance, construct, or if we want to call them design, finance, build facilities that were created supposedly to build roads that are unaccounted for, this bill says they must come inside of it. Because, Mr. Deputy President, the people of St. Lucia must understand that this August chamber, both the lower and the upper house, is accountable to them for the debt of this country. And so we cannot have roads being built like the one at Rodney Bay for $15 million and it doesn't see the light of day here. Less than 2 miles of road. Sidewalk aleze. Chimekwaze. Thanks to the representative for Grozile, I understand, who used his CDP funds to give some reprieve by doing a little layer of asphalt on the road that takes you behind Baywalk Mall. Mr. Deputy President, the people of St. Lucia must understand that when we pay taxes, when we pay VAT, when we pay the health and security levy, it is supposed to be managed effectively on their behalf.
That's right.
Not to come and cry for them for the 2.5%, but to account for the $15 million in roads, to account for the $42 million in playing fields, to account for the $118 million for the box, and many others for Pomandu and Ernst & Young and all of these things. That is the debt. That is the bill that will cause the people of St. Lucia to understand what is happening with their money. Mr. Deputy President, I want to turn to Section 12 of this Act, which is, according to my document, is on page 23. And it outlines the debt management objectives. Excuse me. It says, the minister shall cause the unit, which is the debt management unit, to prepare debt management objectives to ensure that the financing needs of the government are met on a timely basis. Ça veut dire, c'est mon qui a dit dans debt management unit, and these people are made up of the Director of Finance, the PS Finance, there are a number of people, the Accountant General, the Director of Audit, a lot of people who were bypassed before. They now are going to create a plan for the Minister of Finance, okay, to see the debt needs. Also, the debt service obligations of the government are met at the lowest possible cost. over the medium to long term in a manner that is consistent with an acceptable and prudent degree of risk. You know that what that will prevent, Mr. Deputy President? A contract which says that interest will be paid at 1% per day, even before the loan is disbursed. This is going to prevent that. Never again that must happen. You want to raise the dead? We can raise the dead. Do not allow me to raise the dead. Kill it. Government debt management activities support the establishment of a well-developed domestic debt market in the medium to long term. And government debt is managed in a manner that is consistent with general principles of responsible fiscal management. For the leader of opposition business to come and talk Rochamel today, when he was an employee of Sandals, really says that your narrative is dead. The people who are benefiting today, Dio, même se mona yo buy $24 million concessions. Pasa, waiver. Après ça, vous parlez Rochamel, ou pas waiver pani parole, pani hote. So, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, I have seen certain DFCs. I worked in the Ministry of Infrastructure where we had interest rates at 6% and all kinds of things, and I kept asking, have we done a comparison between the DFCs at 6% and a CDB loan, for example, or a World Bank loan at 2%, at 3%? Jodia, we have 0.75%. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Deputy President, this bill is going to cure a lot of the nonsense, a lot of the squandering that we saw in the past administration. Mr. Deputy President, before I came up this morning, the media stopped me, and one question that the media asked me was, okay, you all are going to pass this bill, but what happens if another administration repeals the bill? And I said, well, it's the people of St. Lucia who has to stop this. The people of St. Lucia must understand that they have a responsibility to ensure that the government that they have elected does what is best in the interest of the people. And don't allow it just to the few of us who are here. But we have to now be ready to protest and to do what it takes to ensure that bills like that remain on the books of the government of St. Lucia. Mr. President, Mr. Deputy President, I want to go on to section 18 of the bill, where it says the constitution of the committee, that's the Public Debt Management Advisory Committee. Look at that, Mr. Deputy President. It's made up of the Director of Finance, who is the chairperson, the Permanent Secretary, who is the deputy, and I take it Permanent Secretary in the Department of Finance, the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Economic Development, the Deputy Director of Finance, Debt and Investment, the Director of Research and Policy, the Accountant General, the Budget Director, and the Solicitor General. Let's go further. Section 19. The functions of the committee are: 1. To consider proposals for new and existing government debt, to review the strategy and borrowing plan, to provide guidance on the terms and conditions of project-related financing to ensure consistency with the strategy, to review the composition of the government debt portfolio and portfolio performance, including performance of key risk indicators, strategic benchmarks, and exogenous risk factors, to identify the circumstances under which The strategy must be reviewed, including significant movements in markets or government finances outside specified ranges, to review documents for publication, including the strategy, borrowing plan, and any other reports to Parliament, and to carry out other functions incidental to the proper discharge of the functions under paragraphs A to F. What I find very curious, Mr. Deputy President, is that the Minister of Finance now has to let me get the section. Could you believe that the person who is the boss of the country would have to submit his proposal for financing to that committee? Could you imagine? The Minister of Finance, who usually is the Prime Minister, now has to submit his proposal for financing to this committee for approval, for review, for analysis. A Minister of Finance who I have seen in the past, a former Minister of Finance, just writing a letter and say, this is my selected contractor. A Minister of Finance who just writes an agency and say, I have secured a loan of $175 million for Euro International Airport. No committee, no scrutiny. Or shall by effect.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy President. In keeping with the standing orders and the proceedings of the Senate, I wish to suspend Standing Order 9.3 to allow the Senate to sit between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. or 7 in the evening.
Honorable Senators, the question is that Standing Order 9.3 or 9.3, be suspended to enable this Senate to sit beyond the prescribed time of 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I now put the question. As many as have that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as have contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Please continue, Senator Jean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. I didn't even realize that was the time. Yes, so Mr. Deputy President, this bill is a very strict piece of legislation that will allow for improved debt management of the public's funds. It's a piece of legislation that will allow for transparency, for greater monitoring, for greater accountability of the people's money. Mr. Deputy President, it ought to prevent loan agreements stating contractors and where money is supposed to be diverted outside of the consolidated fund for our projects. It is supposed to prevent, because all that is debt. It's supposed to prevent monies from going to places in South America and other places. It's supposed to prevent contractors listed without any form of competitive bidding. Mr. Deputy President, I sat as Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Infrastructure, and I had to negotiate with the Kuwait Fund, with the World Bank, asking whether they could reduce the criteria for selection of contractors so that our local contractors would be allowed to bid, to compete. We had the Feed and Agriculture Roads project. We had the Cashridge-Grosley Highway project. And we were successful in getting the Q8 fund to allow local participation, because based on the packages of roads that they wanted, our local contractors would not have been able to compete. They did not have the resources to compete. And we were successful in getting them to break some of the packages down so that our local contractors can compete. But we did not ask them to send money somewhere in contractors' hands before the project could have been completed or drawn down. We did not do that. The St. Lucia Labour Party government did not do that. So by a process of elimination, check for yourself. So therefore, Mr. President, in fact, before I go there, what we don't realize, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, is our sovereignty and how we erode our sovereignty when we allow multilateral agencies and people from outside to come and dictate to us what we should do. I always told the staff of the Ministry of Infrastructure, even though this is World Bank money, it's World Bank money, it's CDB money, is this money and that money, no. We are taking loans from these agencies. It is the people of St. Lucia's money. And therefore, we can dictate what we want with our money. This thing of bowing down to multilateral agencies, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, and then we do whatever we want with the people's money, we need to stop that. Our sovereignty is king, and we have to respect it. And before any loan agreement is signed, it ought to be properly scrutinized to ensure that we have control of what we're doing. This thing of dancing to contractors, yes, 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 sir, yes, sir. And then we're doing whatever we want with the people's money. We need to stop it. So, Mr. Vice President, Deputy President, I will reiterate that the bill strongly reflects the high level of courage of the administration of the St. Lucia Labour Party. It has within it transparent conditions and systems of accountability. And it shows the prudent fiscal management that the government has been showing over the last 2 years. They are steering the economy in a positive direction, and no one can say otherwise. They can take statistics and make them jump and make it leap, but they cannot bypass what is already done. And it shows you that Honorable Philip Joseph Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, could have taken a deficit and turned it around to a surplus in just about a year. And so I have every confidence that, armed with the proper legislation and sound fiscal management principles, that our country is going in the right direction. But I just want the people of St. Lucia to be vigilant, and they should not allow any other administration to come and take us back to the wilderness where we came from. This squandering of our funds must not happen again. And now they want to come now and say, oh, they should bring back VAT to 15%. I mean, we are a yo-yo. We're sounding as if we're in a circus, just jumping up, jumping down, jumping up, jumping down, moving a goalpost like I heard somebody saying, from short to tall, from long to whatever, from big to small. Huh? From square to round. I couldn't even understand what they're talking about. Very same people who had doctrines. Doctrines that speak to, if you don't support the philosophy of the party, you should not get anything in your constituency. But now you want to come and talk about goalpost shifting. There is no shifting of the goalpost. The goalpost is steady. What we're seeing are goals. One behind the other. Tutti mama isa hen laptop se jousa. Pregnant mothers can go and get their ultrasounds and their blood tests free of charge. 80 plus people can get their free medication. That is the goal. These are the goals that we shoot in. Yonder a lot. Touching every single sector of our society. Next month, pensioners, look out. Christmas in November. They're talking about increase for civil servants. Someone now, civil servants done negotiating their salary already. Look out, the civil servants. Salary negotiations on the way. And they're talking about having it even quicker, having it resolved. Hurry up and resolve your salary issues. The government ready? Huh? We have teachers getting their materials allowance. Fire service going to get equipment, training, mentoring, all of these things coming for them. Police officers did Siemens passe, your hand drones at bagay.
Tuesday.
Scanners for customs. I mean, people, how much more, Mr. Deputy President, should we be asking for? We want more. We want more. That reminds me of an ad they had before for vodka. More money, more this, more that. Right? But Mr. Deputy President, we are seeing a country that is steered in the right direction. I just have one more observation to make. You know, just recently there, from last year, even on a cultural side, there is a greater awareness of our culture and our pride.
Senator Joy, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. So I will not take all, even though Senator Aziz gave me his. Last year's emancipation celebrations gave me a jolt of my heritage, of my ancestry, that I decided, no, I have to go and look and buy African clothes. Now it's only African clothes I want to wear. That is the awareness that has come to me. I bought this pink jacket for me to celebrate Lawas. Etale Naitune Ble. For me to celebrate Marguerite. That is what we are getting now. There is a better sense of national pride in our country. Before we used to say Bajans are like to, you know, Bajans were proud people, but just at least see Sejusa, tout just at least see. Yes, the cultural consciousness. Proud St. Lucians, I'm a proud St. Lucian. I will go and I will sell St. Lucia anywhere. I could not do that a few years ago. Tout le passé, si on ro si on chicane, si on bagay. Now I can do it. There is a greater sense of national pride, and we all must share that national pride. So, Mr. Deputy President, I support fully. Now, I have one more thing to say. I worked in the public service and I know I transcended administrations. I worked with Sir John Compton. I worked with Honorable Louis George. I worked with Honorable Kenny Anthony, Stephenson King, Philip J. Pierre. Yola J. But it don't matter. Yet still, like Mayor Angelo says, I rise. Public officers feel more empowered, and that one you can take it to the bank. They feel more empowered under a Labour administration. And so you see that bill? All of them will take it and they will make sure they scrutinize it. Okay? But I hope that it is not used to block progressive development. That is what I'm hoping. I'm asking that it is used in the right way so that we do not block, we do not stymie, we do not prevent development of this country. The Prime Minister is bold to be able to pass this bill. Let us use it in the right way. I thank you, Mr. Deputy President.